Hello, hello. Hi, how's it going? Good, good. Um, Not bad. Okay, cool. So, yeah, I saw that you wanted to talk about the kinds of coaching you kind of wanted and what kinds of things you needed as a player. Did you mainly want to talk about it? Did you have videos you wanted to share? What were you looking for?
I just went with what you described in the lesson plan. Basically, I'm just kind of in the slump as a player, so I'm trying to figure out what the kind of player that I am, and well, okay, I kind of relate a lot to you as a player because I'd say I'd relate a lot to the self doubt, which is I'd say
Sure.
a huge it's a huge barrier to, I guess, me reaching the kind of potential that I know I have.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. So, yeah, yeah, I kind of figured I think we'd just start from there, like, pretty much.
Okay, yeah. So, talk to me a bit about, I guess, like what that looks like, or what you feel like you are not able to do versus what you are able to do. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I guess. Uh. Oof. Yeah. It's kind of a lot to unpack, so I'm
Sure.
not
Yeah.
really sure where to like begin.
No problem.
So yeah, this is my first like professional Tekken. It's been a very difficult journey getting to where I'm at as a player right now. Because first of all, Tekken doesn't really have a tutorial mode to begin with, so having to figure out uh I'd say on my own as well as with the help of my community. But I guess the thing is I struggle with I'd say is nerves.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I'd say that very anxiety-inducing fear of failure. Like I don't wanna mess up on stage. I've been practicing a lot, then um, s- sometimes it like really like gets to my head.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, then also sometimes struggling with like knowing what I need to like practice in the lab. Like I know I'm just supposed to like go through my recorded gameplay vids and like go through the mistakes that I made, which I do, but I really sometimes feel like when I go to practice mode, I don't really have a sense of direction of what I'm supposed to like practice,
Mm-hmm.
if that makes any sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was talking to Kwaluko about it, and she did mention that it's good to have like a goal or an objective when you're going to like practice mode. And that's where I guess a lot of players mess up because sometimes you go to the lab, you don't even know what you're really doing there to begin with.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You play
Yeah,
Xiao Yu,
that's
right?
yeah. I play Xiaoyu, I play Lydia, and I recently started learning Claudio, more of a way to understand the matchup. Cause sorry, that matchup doesn't make sense
Mm-hmm.
to me.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so I figure I may just as well pick up the character to at least try and understand.
Mm-hmm.
Um, then I've also weirdly had started having an interest in Jin, but I just mess around with him in the lab, not like really in tournaments.
Yeah.
I do also play Lars, just don't use him in tournaments.
So tournament
Yeah.
primarily is Xiao Yu.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So what I saw is this is your first professional Tekken, figuring out a lot alone. And then the three things you're kind of the most concerned about is like nerves. Does the nerves happen only on stage? Does it happen other places, like in pools as well? Is it just whenever you go to a tournament?
Okay. Okay, the only tournament I've participated in this year was an invitational in Guadeloupe, in the Caribbean.
Mm-hmm.
So okay, okay, let me just give you a breakdown of my, I'd say, international
Yeah,
tournaments.
please do.
I guess.
I know your career like briefly, but any details help. So.
Okay, so my first competition was in South Africa, Red Bull Hit the Streets, which kind of gave me an idea of what's really messing me up is my mental state. It was really stressful because now this was it was Red Bull Hit the Streets. I was invited by Red Bull, and uh it was stressful because I was like, I really need to do well. So that I realized that was not a very healthy mentality to go into the tournament in the first place. And I realized that I also don't have a ton of tournament experience, which I'd say helped with the nerves.
Yeah. You're from Kenya, correct?
Yeah.
And did they find you there when they invited you? How did that happen?
Oh, I'd say the esports scene here in the African region, it's kind of tight knit, and I
Okay.
guess since I have a bit of a profile, um, so the Red Bull team over in South Africa thought it would be a good idea for me to like get the experience. So they contacted the team here in Kenya saying that he wanna fly her out to get some experience, and
Cool.
you know,
So you were already like, were you like just winning a bunch of things back home, or were you just like playing a lot and kind of well known? What was kind of
yeah, it was
yeah.
a bit of both.
Mhm.
I made in 2020 before COVID hit. I'd made I'd say my first top eight, finishing in our local scene here in Kenya,
Okay.
and in 2019 I had won a tournament, so that was also it helped my profile a little bit, like
Okay.
which was helped by one of our I'd say the biggest telecommunications company here in Kenya, so that also helped.
Ah, okay, okay. So in 2019 you won a tournament, and in 2020 you got your first. You said first top eight. Was it a bigger tournament than the 2019 one?
Not really. As in that one was the 2019 one was held outside of our local
Oh, okay, okay.
community. Yes, so I think I hold the one that I made my top eight finish in more credence because it's within, you know, I'd say it's within my local community,
There were
so
like
it
more
kind
stronger
of
players and things like that. Is that
yeah,
okay?
yeah.
Okay.
So that kind of helped my profile. So the Red Bull team thought it would be good to I get some tournament experience, international that is, and I realized that I still needed a ton more to help deal with my nerves.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was sorry, it was really stressful and it was
Yeah.
crushing because now when I came back home, like I was in that whole like I locked myself up in my room.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't talking to anyone. That's kind of that whole 9 yards thing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, then a week later I was now invited to France to play in a show match with Kayane.
This was after the South Africa, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so invited to. So when was the South Africa? 2020.
Yeah, no, 2021 last year.
Okay, and then
Yeah.
invited to France.
Yeah, a week later, I flew out to France. I played in a show match with Kayane, and um, yeah, it's. I think that experience also helped me understand that. I don't know if being young is like part of that kind of urgent.
The
Um,
urgency.
yeah, it's kind of. I don't know if it was adding to my stress or to the urgency. Like I need to like prove myself as a player. Uh, yeah, but she gave me a ton of good advice. Like just you're young, just take it easy, and you're just starting out in your career. So
Yeah, for sure. Um,
yeah.
Go
Mhm.
ahead. Sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Oh, okay. So I'm just recapping. So 2019, you won this first tournament, but it was just kind of like an event with a telecom company. Then 2020, first top eight in the Kenyan local scene. How many players were there ish? Like, if you remember,
Mm,
or how much
if
are
I
there
recall,
usually?
we're around 30 to 40 active players. So I think at the time we were around 30, if I recall
Okay.
correctly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's a decent size. And then the South African tournament, what was that like? Like, how did you do, or like, how big was the tournament? What did it feel like?
Hit the streets. So they
Hit the
usually
streets. Okay.
have like a series, like three qualifiers to get like, is it 3 or 4 qualifiers to get like the 4 players? So I was invited, like I was just invited as a guest player,
Mm-hmm.
And these are some of the best players within the South African community in both Tekken and Street Fighter.
Sure.
So he has not participated in the Tekken event, and yeah, I felt that, yeah, like now looking back now, I realized that, as I said, I put a bit too much pressure on myself to like do well, and I guess also being my first international, I'd say major, like contributed to those nerves. So because I didn't really know what to expect.
Totally, yeah. So for reference, I had a similar experience at the start of 2022. So we had the North American online Tekken World Tour thing, right? So like
Mm-hmm.
everybody was saying like, oh, he can only play online, he's gonna be trash offline, things like that. And so I showed up and I was like really nervous. I was really focused. I was like, I have to do well because there's this like reputation, right? And I think I lost to everybody in my pool. So I played Shadow, Bin Chang, and Junya, Shadow's brother. And
Mm-hmm.
I lost 2-0 to Shadow and Bin Chang after having them both at like last hit. Like I could have just killed them, but then I threw it away. And then against Junya, I was up and ready to win, and then he hit me with the Katarina Snake Edge.
Wow.
so so I completely crumbled to the nerves. I luckily had a good time because I was still on stream and getting to like perform and things like that. But like gameplay wise, it was terrible. So I feel you there. Um, yeah, that was like start of 2020, and I really didn't feel like I understood my nerves and myself until this tournament I just got back from, like two
Yeah.
days ago, and that was the first tournament I played in where I really felt like I understood my body and mind and made the adjustments and was able to play the way I do at home. So that was really cool. And I can talk more about that later, but I definitely want to hear more about um, what your experience has been like. So yeah, hit the streets 2021. Lots of really good players. Put a lot of pressure on yourself. Um, I'm assuming it just didn't go very well because of that. And then the week
Yeah.
after you went to France, was that from your reputation before? Was that people liked seeing you at Hit the Streets? What was that like? They just reach out to you?
Yeah. Yeah. So it's kind of like a bunch of different should I say stakeholders had an interest in seeing me in France. So
Okay.
I was invited by the government of France, and also Rebel gave me some support. So yeah, I flew out for that event, which was just basically an invitational show match between me and Kayane.
Oh, so that was just
Um,
a one match thing. Was it like first to 5, first to 10?
first to seven, and
Okay.
yeah, for Tekken and Soul Calibur. I don't really play Soul Calibur as much these days,
Uh
so
huh.
yeah,
Yeah.
I wasn't as stressed about the Soul Calibur thing because I just knew like, hey, Kayane is the queen of Soul Calibur. I'm gonna get my ass beat on stream, but I'm gonna have a good time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was for Tekken now. It's where I felt like, okay, Kayane does play Tekken and she does play Xiaoyu,
Uh huh.
but I was still really nervous as hell. And she's a hell of a lot experience.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so there wasn't really anything on the line. So I don't even know. I don't even I think about it. I don't really know why I was stressed about it to begin with.
Uh huh. Uh huh.
Yeah, but I think that also kind of helped me understand, like, okay, I have a serious anxiety and nerves problem, and I talked about it with Kayane. She asked about also my experience with the local, like my local community. She asked about how old I was, so at least those factors like helped me like understand myself better, and now during that time when I was in France, I also got an invitation to fly out to Guadeloupe this year for the inaugural Kanoki Sports Series.
Nice. Oh, when is that happening?
No, it happened
Oh, it happened.
in
It happened. Okay.
Yeah, it happened in June, end of June towards start of July.
Okay. So June, July 2022 was Guadalupe, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think now I took a lot of the lessons I learned from like South Africa and France to like at least understand how I'm supposed to approach this I'd say competitive event better. And there's a ton of shit that happened that was unexpected. Like I was just supposed to be playing in a women's event, but I was not the women's event was cancelled, so now I kind of had to play in the mixed event. And that was super interesting because I found out at say like a day or two before, just when I arrived in Guadeloupe, that's when I was told. Then I was like, oh, okay, so this is something unexpected, but I'm going to have to adapt my mental state.
Yeah.
And now during the event, first of all, I realized my body was struggling to acclimatize to like the climate because the Caribbean being really warm, and
Yeah.
now I was also struggling with jet lag. Uh,
Jet lag, lots of physical discomfort. Yeah.
yeah. But funny enough, I played really well because
Oh,
I think I made
okay.
it to winners finals. Funny
Wow.
enough.
Nice.
But now I realized that too much is I'm not like struggling to like breathe. I was really fatigued. Then now where shit started going wrong is now when now I was playing against a player from Puerto Rico. He was now playing late. I have a ton of like matchup. I'd say I have some matchup experience with that. Oh sorry, I was actually playing sorry, I played Shayu and Lydia. Um,
And they
but
played Lay?
yeah, but let me say that character is just annoying to deal with to
Yeah, of course.
begin with. Yeah, so I now went to the losers bracket. Then I was not playing. I was facing a player from Guadeloupe, and in his last match, I saw he had picked Marduk, so I thought, I'm gonna be facing a Marduk player. Then man decides to surprise me by choosing Negan. Who? Sorry, that matchup just it's just confounding to me. I don't know. He doesn't make sense.
hmm
So now he's the one who knocked me out of the tournament and I came in fifth place,
Okay.
which wasn't too bad. Like place out of 15 players, that was pretty good considering that was not my third international tournament.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I still felt some type of way,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So,
Yeah.
so yeah, okay. So the results are obviously really important. How did you feel about like and then you said so Lay is annoying to fight and then the next guy normally picks Marduk but picked Negan the whole time or did he switch?
Yeah, he Negan the whole time.
Okay, okay. So
Yeah,
when you went
so
in, had you seen him play before? Have you like watched him play or was it just you heard he
no,
plays Marduk?
No, what happened is okay. I tried researching the local scene. There are no videos on them,
Yeah,
so I
yeah.
was kind of going in blind. I just had to use what I knew from my, just from my competitive experiences and how to approach matchups
hmm
and my own play style.
Yeah.
It's just now I'd been spectating one of the matches, so I saw this guy who was from Guadeloupe was now playing Murdoch against his opponent. So I was like, I know how to at least approach Murdoch more or less, so I'll be fine, hopefully.
Yeah, yeah.
And
Okay.
he switched to Nick, and then I was like, well, shit, I'm fucked.
Yeah. Yeah, okay. So, um I hear a lot that's really similar with me. I think like I get really uncomfortable when I'm traveling. I'm like super I'm super needy. So, like I'm always like I need my own room. I need like a lot of time. I need time to rest. So I think a big part of my difficulty going to offline for the first time was like a lot of people wanted to just like hang out and have fun. And like I definitely like that, but I play really poorly unless I kind of have my energy well reserved. So I definitely understand what like that it's that traveling and the jet lag and everything can be really brutal. Um, let me see. So yeah, I get the sense there are a lot of nerves, and just from what you're saying, do you when you're anxious and nervous, do you have like concrete thoughts, or is it just kind of like you feel that you're nervous?
I just feel like really nervous. I try calming myself like down. Um, and I try to eat well and make sure to and I've rested enough. Like I've
Yeah,
gotten my 8 hours of sleep to
yeah,
avoid, at least to try reduce that anxiety. And I also avoid like I'd say watching matches because it's like an exam. If you haven't prepared well, you haven't prepared well.
yeah,
So
yeah. I feel similar. Yeah. Um.
uh, yeah.
So yeah, a lot of the I can just start talking, and then you can tell me what is making like resonates with you, what like kind of you feel like is relevant, what isn't. But yeah, so I didn't really figure out my nerves until this last event, and prior to that, I had played the week before in Atlanta, where like Anakin is from and all that, and everybody always cheers really loud and stuff like that. And I died to. Do you remember how I mentioned in the Tekken Online thing 2022? We met offline in California, and Junia beat me with a Snake Edge.
Yeah.
So I spent the whole year thinking about that, and then in Atlanta last week, I got hit by 2 Snake Edges from Junia. So obviously I had practiced it between now and then, but I realized like, okay, so my goal was not only to understand my nerves, but also understand like what it came out as, like what did it manifest as, and then use that as a way to try and figure out how to, find solutions. So when I was fighting Junia in Atlanta, I was backdashing like nonstop on Infinite, and then I was so nervous that I was no longer thinking of like kind of the options he had to hit me. All I was thinking of was like, okay, he's gonna whiff or something, or I'll find a counter hit and then he'll die. So while I was backdashing that whole time, he just ran up to me, forward dash like 3 or 4 times, and then just threw the Snake Edge. And I was so frozen on like I didn't have a concrete thought like I don't want to lose necessarily or like this and that, but I remember my heart rate was really high. I was breathing in like a mask, so it felt really like claustrophobic, and I was just not processing what was happening on the screen. Like I was looking at the screen, but I wasn't like really like looking at it. You know what I mean? So when I backdashed and he went low, I was not ready, and then he hit me twice, and that's how he beat me. So I would call that situation I was playing in like definitely like a high nervous, anxious kind of like. When I get anxious, I notice that I freeze. Right? Some people get nervous and they start mashing. Some people get nervous and they like like fight or flight, like they'll either like try and like mash harder, or they'll try and like run away, things like that. So understanding what you tend to do in those nervous situations is a good start. The way it kind of unfortunately is that with mental stuff is obviously outside of like medical conditions, like if you have anxiety or depression, it's going to be a lot of brute force to kind of like get yourself to do something else. And a lot of it will have to be like dedicated sessions where you're working specifically on that, even if you end up losing like a million games in a row, or like you drop tournaments, things like that. So for me, I started understanding that like my anxious, nervous state usually leads to me freezing, right? And why that ends up happening, I can tell, is because I don't believe in the solutions that I found in practice mode or in experience in my notes, right? I start doubting like, hey, yeah, I'm supposed to whiff punish here, but like, what if I'm wrong? What if I mess up? Or I'm supposed to sidestep in reaction to this, but what if I'm too slow and I get clipped? So I get a lot of these like, and it doesn't necessarily play out in words, but when I reflect, that's a lot of what it is like, oh no, like what if this goes wrong? What if this goes wrong? So I do nothing. So funnily enough, the way I fixed that at this last tournament is I would take like 1 drink of alcohol, and it was enough. It was enough that when I was on stage or when I was sitting at the pool, because I get equally nervous sitting at the pool station or playing on stage when it's offline. And I found that the constant factor is I'm always afraid, like, what if I'm wrong? And so to counteract that, the drink helps, but also strategically focusing on kind of what my character wants to do and what game plan I want to do kind of brings down the amount of variables, right? So like the way I was playing was like, oh my god, my opponent can hit me with 10 million of these things at any time, right? But realistically, they have to be at, a certain range to hit a hell sweep. They have to be at a certain range if they want to do a dash attack, right? Like the jab isn't really scary at range 3. So that kind of reasoning before the game, because during the game it's going to be too slow, but reasoning like that before the game can help prime like what I should be afraid of, what I should actually think about. And then on top of that, like kind of like, okay, so I play Noctis, so I have superior range. I can get in. I don't really have to be afraid of whiffing. So if he's at a range where he's kind of threatening these moves, maybe I can just hit him and then I don't have to be as afraid. And then I can see when he wants to swing back at me. I can see when he wants to run away. I can see when he wants to duck. And that can help me build a better picture instead of kind of going in completely blank, like, oh my God, he can hit me with anything. What does his character do again? What am I supposed to do again? Oh my God, you know? So
Yep.
I think anxiety can be counterattacked, in the game at least, by locking down variables. So like, you know, your character does this. You know, you can hit them with this thing. How do they beat that? Now they have a set of options that works and options that don't work. Go ahead.
Just a minute, I have a call.
Yeah, no worries.
Give me a minute.
Yeah, no worries.
d'hier était énorme. En plus de cela, elle sait
des choses ensemble et
expertise qui sort des 3D. Le but, on a pas mal de personnages et d'ailleurs on va, je pense, essayer cela typiquement le genre e-sport. Je vous le disais, c'est un jeu de combat en 3D. Le but est vraiment d'obtenir, on va dire, enfin d'utiliser pleinement le potentiel de mouvement que vos personnages ont. On a déjà un premier coup launcher, c'est un jeu de combat. C'est parti de fait entre Queen Arrow et Cayenne. Donc je vous le disais, c'est un jeu de combat en 3D. Le but est vraiment d'obtenir, on va dire, enfin d'utiliser pleinement le potentiel de mouvement que vos personnages ont. On a déjà un premier coup launcher Et comme classiquement dans les jeux de combat, on va pouvoir effectuer toute une série de combos pour infliger des dégâts et surtout maintenir la pression sur votre adversaire. Queen Arrow joue Lydia, c'est-à-dire la jeune femme blonde avec cette uniforme combinaison qu'elle a autour de la taille. Et Kayane,
I'm back. Sorry about that.
Hello, no problem, no problem.
on va dire la jeune femme
Yeah.
I was just watching matches. So,
eh bien,
Okay.
décrire de la sorte pour l'instant.
um,
Premier round pour Kayane qui a été pris.
I think I was talking about
Ça a l'air d'annoncer.
yeah. So like my habit during nervous phases is to sit still. So to before the game, before tournaments, I like spend a lot of energy reminding myself about like honestly just like a lot of positive affirmation, just like these are things that I can do well, and like this is when I practice, this is what it looks like, and I can believe in that. And then in the game kind of reminding myself like if you make a decision and it's wrong, like that's okay, like make the decision, you know, do the thing. Like hit the button. It's kind of a big deal, I think. Yeah, and then I noticed in top 8 of this last tournament that I was so happy that I beat Shadow that I was too relaxed, right? I was so relaxed that I wasn't really like reacting to anything. I was kind of like not really like thinking. I was kind of just like as if I plugged in the controller and was just playing like for friendly games, you know? So in those situations, if I'm aware of myself as being okay, I'm not super nervous, I'm kind of just really, really relaxed, maybe I should take like a little bit of caffeine to like make my body a bit more intense and then be ready to go, you know? So those are the things I've explored a little bit recently, like just the other day. Now, aside from that, yeah, it's going to be a lot of like brute force. So like if you find yourself nervous in, for example, like taking a mix-up. I was talking with Joey Fury about some practice mode strategies where you actually like program the bot to do like either a mid or a low, and then you walk up to it, hit play, knowing what you're going to guess, and then as soon as the guess happens, just pause and stop and then kind of process and then repeat it again, and then slowly build up the speed to where you're expecting a mix-up, you guess the mix-up defense, like mid or low, and then right or wrong, like what does that feel like? And as you speed that up, it gets easier, I think, to be wrong and things like that, and to program yourself to make these decisions. Now, I guess that kind of plays into practice mode too. So like you said a bit, you were like lost a bit on how to practice and how to do things like that. Do you have like a training partner you normally play with, or do you have like other high-level players you talk to, or is it mostly on your own?
I have several like sparring partners. Yeah. One of them is the lay player. And then one of them is like one of our top players here in Kenya. So I usually hit him up for like matches occasionally. So it's
Okay.
you know
And
it's
is it
kind of
usually
difficult.
online or offline or?
Mostly online, but if I do find myself like offline, like I ask if anybody's around, we can just
Cool.
play
Okay.
some games. Yeah, but you know it's exceedingly difficult knowing wacky schedules and
Yeah.
life
Yeah,
in
totally.
the yeah.
Okay. So yeah, I think yeah, so you're training with people pretty regularly, more or less, and now trying to figure out what to do in the lab, right? So you mentioned a few of like Negan and Lei and kind of characters that are a bit more obscure. Do you watch a lot of international players play those?
Yeah, I watch a lot of the Korean players. I watch you guys play, and um, the thing is, it's something to watch, and I
Totally.
guess sometimes watching it kind of helps like recognizing particular strings, and I'd say more or less approach the matchup. But as it's also one thing to get consistent, I'd say matchup
Yeah,
experience, like
yeah, totally
playing,
different for sure. Completely agreed.
playing the character until you like know what to expect. So I think that's where I'd say I'm kind of lacking.
Mm-hmm.
That I'm also lacking. So I think for me the best thing I'm always able to do is I do like put aside some time. Maybe if I'm on the bus to school, just watching even if it's like 10 minutes, watching some matchups, then I do get some time in the course of the day. I come back home, I practice like my Korean backdash. I try practice some throw breaks, and if I did get some time to like play um matches, I go through the matches and I just practice punishment because that's also a big chunk of what I'm lacking. Like sometimes knowing what to punish, it does help.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah,
No, that's super important too because it gives your brain less to worry about, right? Like if you know the punishes, if you know the situations, then on stage or wherever, your brain has less things to worry about. So it knows like, oh, this is how we're gonna do this. You know, this is how we're gonna do this. So it lets you focus more on like, what is my opponent doing? How are they hitting me? And if your brain is more focused on that, it becomes easier to like use the things that you've practiced to beat that, right? Or like, oh, this looks like this situation. I can beat it with that. You know, having less for your brain to worry about makes it a lot easier to introduce like calmness or like find focus again. And focus is how the nerves are beaten. It's like being able to zero in on like what is happening on screen, what is my opponent doing, and what are my answers to that is the way to occupy your mind from getting concerned with, you know, what if I don't do well because there's a lot of people watching, you know, a lot of like thoughts that aren't relevant to winning the game. Focusing on the things that help you win the game is how the mind gets pulled away from the things that aren't relevant. So what I would say is, yeah, it's good that you're watching players. It might be a point too, like for example, you don't understand how Negan works, right? So when you watch a Negan Korean play, and I would watch more a bunch of regions too, because you want to see like what kind of things like people do that like aren't necessarily solid, or how they're beating players that are doing other things. So you want to build up a picture of that. So a good example is like when you watch a Negan player, say from like Europe, like what moves are they using from what range, right? Like what moves are they using when they like run up to each other? Like what moves are they using when they've like backdash for a little bit, right? And a good way to kind of narrow it down too is like when I watch, I kind of start with like every situation where somebody got hit. So I'll wait until somebody gets hit by something big, either a launcher or like a counter hit, and then I'll like just rewind 10 seconds and be like, okay, like, or I'll rewind like 5 seconds and be like, what happened right before that? And if it's like, if it was like depending on what the situation is. So like for example, if Negan is doing like it hit somebody with the shove, right? Like the push, the counter hit that gives him the 2-hit. I'd probably be looking at like, okay, how were they moving right before that? Like what space were they playing at, you know? And then depending on where that space is, I might see like, okay, so if they're playing really close and the person, or they're playing really far and then the person got hit by the shove, why would they be like running in and getting hit, right? Then that helps me figure out, okay, maybe Negan has this move and they're afraid of that, or maybe Negan has this move and they're afraid of that. And that can kind of let you don't necessarily have to come up with the right answer or anything, but it will help you start paying attention to like, oh, this character likes to use this move in these situations. This character likes to use this move in these situations. How do I beat that move, right? So in this case, let's say it's like a Negan down forward 1. You need to step that, I believe, to the right if you like know he's poking with that. So maybe it becomes a matter of, okay, maybe I don't know what Negan's doing, but I know that if he's trying to down forward 1 me at this range, I can move this way. And that helps as you build up more of those little pieces while just going through like that kind of exercise. It makes kind of having a whole picture of the character a lot easier. And then if you're totally lost, yeah, like conversations with other players and like things like that will obviously help. That's kind of my approach to figuring out like how a character works, or trying to understand like what I need to do to beat that character. But another option is, you know, you can put it in the context of like Xiaoyu, right? So Xiaoyu is a character who like does her best when like players are like coming into her, right? Because she has the magic 4, she has like 2 orbitals, she has forward 3. So there are a lot of situations where it's really advantageous for Xiaoyu if the opponent's coming into her. So maybe we look at what moves does Negan use to come in, right? And what moves do I have that counter that? Or what movements can I do to counter that? You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's actually pretty helpful. Like
Yeah.
I think contextual, context with your, you know, with the strengths of your characters, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, doing things like that can help start somewhere instead of just like, oh my god, where do I even begin, right? Like whenever I see things like, yeah, like this is an overwhelming option, or like I can't figure out what to do, I always start from what are other players doing, why is that happening, and whether I'm right or like honestly for me it's like being willing to be wrong about it has helped me figure out way more, and I end up being right more often because I'm actually guessing instead of what I used to do where I'm too afraid to be wrong, so I just ask people, but then I never figure anything out.
Yeah, I can definitely relate to that. I think I'm so terrified of being wrong. Like I need to get it right always.
Yeah. So like having people you could be around that like it's okay for you to be wrong and like be corrected, or like you can argue with them and like see like where the mistake is happening, or where what their understanding is, and then having the, even if it's like fake confidence, just having like the fake confidence to be like, yeah, I think this is right, like this is how it is. You know, like that kind of thing can really help with finding solutions and actually getting better to where you want to be.
That definitely makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. So yeah, I would say, given what you're talking to me about, what would probably work in the future if you were to do more coaching, I would say try to get videos of situations or tournaments where you play, even if they're locals or even if they're just matches with friends or training partners. Find things where you feel like there was a problem that you really want to address. And I know that sounds really vague, but like if you play a set and you're like, man, I felt like I was doing good, I knew what to do, but I was so nervous, I made mistakes, we could pull that up and come up with a strategy there. You could also come in with specific matchups that you want to practice. That would be another option. We could watch those together and kind of come up with notes, and I can ask you like, what do you think this character does? How does that work? And then we can come up with like training mode strategies to, you know, make it easier to play that. If we were to do more, I would say that's probably how I would do it.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, once my schedule like adjusts and stuff, I said, I think finding the right coach is what's important to me, and as I said, I relate to a lot, of who you are and who you are as a player as well. So.
Sweet. That's kind of my goal.
Yeah,
That's kind of my goal. Is like I feel like I'm definitely not the only person who like thinks about this stuff, and I think that a lot of players who are really really good either solved it without understanding fully why, or not being able to say how they were able to solve it. Like Anakin just says like, bro, chill out, it's a video game, and I'm like, okay, so this dude has a way less anxiety than I do. Like, or like,
yeah, I remember he told me that as well.
Yeah.
I was like, that's easy for you to say.
Yeah. So I think I always wanted more words, or like more thoughts or more reasoning to try and get around the nerves and the like lack of mental control I had. And I've been learning recently that you ever get a song stuck in your head and like it's all you can think about forever?
Yeah, that's basically maybe
so
Notes, Psalm 41.
Yeah. So I used to always think, well, the way you get rid of a song in your head is you like either replace it with a new one or get distracted and think about something else, right?
Mm-hmm.
But there's no amount of I need to stop thinking about this song that's going to fix it. You know what I mean? So
Definitely.
in the same way with nerves, they're not solved by saying I'm nervous, I need to calm down, or this, that necessarily. It's getting your mind to focus on the right things. Right? So, it can be things as small as like, hey, my opponent is doing how many back dashes before they start dashing back in? Or how many forward dashes are they doing before they hit me? Or, oh, what are they doing after I hit like a down forward one on block? They're like sidestepping or back dashing. Like all these things you don't have to come up with an answer to, but just seeing that they're doing it can bring your brain into a zone where it starts doing the answer automatically, right? And kind of like these problems are kind of solved by a mix of trusting the subconscious and getting your senses to pay attention to the things that let it do what it needs to do. But yeah, so I would say hopefully if you decide to come back, then we can go through things like that. We can talk about more tournament situations in specific. We can talk about matchups in specific and like kind of the prep work we can do to answer that. That's what I would say if we go forward.
Yeah, definitely that would help a lot because I am able to focus more on the matchup rather than how stressed I am about the event. And
Yeah.
yeah,
Cool. Do you have any last questions or anything?
I think I'm good because I know we've definitely gone over time.
Yeah, no worries. You can always message me if you have like small questions or things like that. And yeah, congrats on the Red Bull thing too. That's really exciting.
Thank you so much. Yeah, but now I really just want to focus on getting stronger as a player, and I guess that will start with DreamHack Atlanta.
Oh,
I
you're gonna
saw
come
that you
out?
might. Yeah, that's
Oh
actually
boy,
the
I
plan.
wanna
So
I wanna go so badly. I I need to like raise money to go, but that's actually okay. That's really exciting. If you end up going, then we can play and stuff. So
yeah, definitely. I'm a huge fan of the scene over in Atlanta. Like the East Coast scene is, I don't know, it's just better than the West Coast. Don't tell anyone.
yeah,
I said that. Yeah,
yeah.
but yeah,
Y-
I look up to a lot of the guys over in Atlanta, and yeah,
It'll
basically the East Coast scene.
it'll be a good experience. They talk so much trash. It's so scary being in Atlanta. So like it's so loud and everybody's screaming and it's like, yeah. So it'll be really good for the mental for sure.
Yeah, I just want to get the experience so I can at least start setting the tone for next year.
Yeah.
Once I resume competing, because I know I'm gonna fly out to the States a lot more often.
Oh, that's really exciting. Nice.
Yeah, so I'm just discussing it with Red Bull right now and seeing what we can do about that.
Cool. Yeah, well, keep me posted on that. Like, I'm super interested in like kind of how it works and how what things you're planning. So let me know.
Absolutely, absolutely, and thank you so much for taking the time out today.
Yeah, sounds good. Have a good rest of your day.
Same to you.